What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I got a bunch of baits here in front of me. Today we're going to show you how to break down catching fish in the fall. So, fall fishing, one of my favorite times out of the whole year to fish, and that's because fish are big and fish are hungry. Today I'm going to show you guys how I dial down a bite in the fall and a few techniques that I go about just finding fish. And so let's just hop right into this, because you guys are probably going to be able to take what you learn here and just go fish and hopefully catch a big one. So I'm not putting these baits in any particular order. In the fall, I'm throwing all of these baits all the time. Some of these baits, they work great in lakes, some of them work great in ponds, some of them are specific scenarios. But if you guys pay attention here and just kind of put them to what best suits you, I guarantee you guys will catch some fish. The number one thing that you guys need to pay attention to in the fall is the fact that fish are stocking their bellies, right? They're eating as much as they possibly can so they can get real fat for winter. If you guys are primarily fishing ponds, those bass might be keying in on bluegill, they might be keying in on creek chubs if you have like a spring-fed pond. And if you guys are fishing big main lakes, you have a big push of shad making their way up to the creek mouths. So this time of year, you're gonna see a lot of big bait balls. So the first thing that I'm always keying in the fall is going to be bait fish. So just to give you guys some baits that are gonna allow you to do this is what we got. Spinner baits. Spinner baits are a great way to cover water. They're a great way to imitate a school of bait fish. They're a great way to just key in on bait fish in general. So this is one thing that I'm typically always throwing. I love spinner baits, and they work great in ponds and they work great in shallow water. You got fish coming up shallow. So one thing that I generally start fishing right off the bat is a spinner bait in those creeks, in those shallow water scenarios. Great fish producer. Another bait right behind that I'm throwing often, depending on the scenario, maybe there's a lot of down cover, maybe a lot of logs and stuff like that, I'm gonna be fishing a vibrating jig, or in this case, a chatterbait. A chatterbait, once again, is a great way just to imitate those shad. That bait fish vibrates, it really gets those fish fired up. Tip your favorite paddle tail swim bait on there, and this really produces fish. It's a really fun bite. If you guys aren't hip to fishing a chatterbait, that's something you guys might wanna check out. Another bait that is fished a ton in the fall and that works really productively is going to be swim baits. If you guys want to get out there and catch a fish on a big swim bait, this is going to be your time to do it. Fish are looking to fill their stomach, guys. They have a huge appetite. So them looking at a big bait fish like this, they're not going to think twice. They are going to smash it. Some of the biggest bass caught all year are caught on big swim baits in colder water in the fall. So if you got discouraged trying to fish a big swim bait all summer long and it was just tough, now is the time to do it. So pick up one of these, get out there. I don't care where you guys are at, pond or lake, you will have bass in there that are willing to eat a big swim bait. A lot of people love topwater in the summer. I'm a big frog guy, I'm a big buzzbait guy. I caught a lot of big fish on topwater this year. You can still throw topwater early in the fall. That water hasn't completely cooled down yet. Those fish are super active. Now, the difference between like summer and fall, you know, you got weeds. So in summer, you got a lot of cover, right? You have really thick weeds, you got mats, things like that. Moving into the fall, all that stuff starts to die off. It starts to sink to the bottom. You get bodies of water starting to turn over. So at this point in time, I'm usually getting rid of the frog and I'm sticking to these guys right here. The first one is a buzz bait. This will be one bait that I'm throwing pretty consistently early on in the fall. When you still got weeds hanging out there, you're still trying to stay weedless, this is probably my go-to. But when that bite kind of phases out, the weeds are completely died off and I'm trying to cover a lot of open water, I'm picking up a big walking bait. This is a really great way to fish a little bit slower. You can actively walk the dog, allow that bait to pause in there, and it's just a big presentation. A lot of your bigger fish are gonna key in on these and they're gonna smack it. So don't feel like just because the water's starting to cool down that you can't throw topwater. I promise you guys, the bite is still there. And then if all those baits kind of phase their way out and, you know, I'm not being super productive on the moving baits or, you know, the big stuff, that's when I'm picking up the OG, the GOAT, the bass jig. The bass jig is a great way to just get on a good lethargic bite. You know, the fish still have a big appetite, but they're not necessarily going out of their way to grab stuff, or maybe the weather's gotten bad and they're just holding really tight to cover. So when that moving bite really starts to slow down, I'm typically picking up a bass jig. You guys, anything will work that kind of sits on the bottom. You can fish a bass jig, a Texas rig crawl. Another great one, a Ned rig. When the fish are really finicky, sometimes throwing a Ned rig really just gets it done for you. So I'm really just playing it by ear. There's a lot of options, guys. There's really nothing too wrong to fish. If it imitates a bait fish, they will probably smack it. But some baits are gonna work better in certain scenarios than others. You gotta play it by ear. You wanna cover a lot of water? Throw a spinner bait. You wanna catch a donkey? Throw a big old swim bait. And if you want to get on a topwater bite, stick to the two that I shared with you today. But before we're done here, there's one more thing that I want to share with you guys. If you guys notice, I'm sticking to all natural colors here. That is going to benefit you. Things are calming down. You want that natural presentation in the fall. Whites, blues, green pumpkins. All these colors are going to make your chances better at catching more fish. It's just what it is, guys. You got to match the hatch, stick to the forage that those bass are feeding on. That's what's gonna make you successful. So there's some of my tips, guys. That's what I'm throwing this fall. Those are some baits that you can get out there and fish, and I guarantee you, you will get on a bite. I promise. It's not as hard as you think. It's a great opportunity to catch a PB and have some fun before winter comes in and just puts everything to an end. But if you live down south, it might not be that bad for you. So kudos to you if you get warm weather year round. But for me, it's coming to a close. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Hey, if you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment down below on videos that you guys want to see next. If there's anything that you don't know how to do, you want to learn more about, drop it down below and I'll try to make a video for you. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time.